Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of HomeKit Insider. You've got me, as always, Andrew O'Hara, and joining me this week from The Verge is Jennifer Tuohy. How are you doing?
Hi, Andrew. I'm doing very, very well, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good. This is, you know this, usually we're in a little bit like of a lull in the summer in terms of like tech stuff, right? And we kind of got through a lot of the big things. And then somehow, as we're prepping for this week, we have a ridiculous amount of news that kind of happened.
Yeah, it's been busy. I think we've kind of moved past the concept of a slow summer, especially when Google goes and announces it's going to do its Pixel event in August. It's like we're just creeping in. Next year, I think fall tech season is going to start in the spring. It was actually helpful, I think, that Samsung just introduced a bunch of old Apple devices. So that was, less stuff to cover, I guess. Right. Yeah. So Samsung, Apple, Google, it's all just kind of, it's nonstop now, especially in the smart home. It feels like, I think also a lot of smart home companies kind of throw things in between the big events in order to try and get a little bit more attention. So it's like, it's just nonstop now. I don't think there's really a season anymore.
Right. I know.
And
it is. It gives us stuff to talk about.
It does. That's right. It's never a dull moment.
Well, I guess we might as well jump right into it. So starting off with, if you own some Hue bulbs, you may have noticed that recently they just keep going to 100%. This is apparently a known bug, and I believe it's a Matter-related bug, actually, where this would just happen. But they have identified a fix. They say in the meantime, you can disable Matter to prevent this from happening. And then within a week or so, maybe by the time this podcast is out, they should have a fix rolled out that should take care of this issue. Did this happen to any of your bulbs, Jennifer?
No, but actually it was one of my colleagues who first spotted some chatter online about this being an issue. Sean is actually the one who wrote the story for The Verge. And he sort of asked in our Slack room, anyone else having this problem? And I hadn't been, and we have a lot of Hue users and no one else had noticed it, but we did a bit more digging and it did seem like there was a fair number of people reporting this issue. So it's not clear why it might affect some Matter users and not others, because I do have my Hue bulbs in Matter, which I have written about because that was not a smooth experience either. Although it has got better. My experience actually has been better, which is good. But this actually, whilst it is to do with the Matter integration with Hue, it is actually Hue's implementation of that, not a Matter bug across the board. So it's not going to affect, say, your Nanoleaf Matter bulbs or any other Matter-enabled smart lights. It's just Hue, and it's just their implementation. And it's something about how there's different signals in Matter, and one is, switching on and off, which is a basic function. And it appears that somehow, occasionally, instead of it's sending a signal to just turn it on fully rather than whatever signal you asked for, which is, I guess I don't think it's necessarily saying, oh, look, Matter's all buggy, but this is a sign, I think, that perhaps the whole concept of switching the entire smart home to a new platform, a new technology, a new conversation, because this is what it is. It's about interoperability, right? It's about the way devices talk to each other, is not going to be the smoothest thing. There are going to be hiccups. There are going to be bugs. This is something that companies have to do from scratch now. They have to create this new implementation. The good thing about Matter, and the whole point of it, is that they should only have to do this once. Once they've got it fixed, figured out, this should be a smooth, transition, and it will work with any smart home platform. But with the smart home, as you know, Andrew, there are always bugs and issues. And this isn't a fun one. I've had my lights randomly turn on to 100% brightness at like 2 a.m. And yeah, that's the time when you go, the smart home is really annoying. And when your spouse says, take these things out of my bedroom.
Absolutely. And I just had that happen this week. Not with the smart lights at all, but with our next news item. My wife walked in, she looks at the lock and goes, what's this? And I'll tell you what it is. It's the Aqara U200, which is now available after its Kickstarter campaign. This thing is out. So I've been testing it. Jennifer, she has it on her desk. She can show you. I meant to bring mine down off the door and I didn't do it. So if you're watching the video, you can see the U200 for yourself, but it has a keypad with a fingerprint sensor. It's a wireless keypad. This is the first retrofit one, the wireless one like this, that has HomeKit integration. So you can just tap your phone right in the middle on the little NFC module to do it that way. They include a little NFC tag in the box that you could also use to authenticate. Jennifer's holding up the interior part there that just goes right over top of, kind of your standard mounting plate. It was really easy to install. Took just a few moments and then good to go. It's a little chunky. It reminds me of like an August lock, but it is substantially bigger. And so far, I've been pretty happy with it in terms of my testing. Jennifer and I were talking just before the show started, and the only like negative that I can say is it just felt a little plasticky. Like, yeah, the turning the lock didn't feel as like solid and robust and smooth. It just felt a little plastic. Yeah, you can hear like those gears a little bit as you turn. It's not like a deal breaker by any means. We're doing a good Vanna White here. Yeah, you're doing great. We're just going to listen to some ASMR of the lock turning. Nailed it. So what do you think of the lock, Jennifer?
So, I mean, I haven't installed it, as you can tell, because I was actually away this weekend in Boston. So I'm a little behind on testing it. But yeah, I mean, it's similar. It has similar feel to Aqara's other locks in this space. But obviously it's exciting. There's a few reasons exciting, being the first HomeKit compatible retrofit lock. And Aqara got round the problem of retrofit locks working with HomeKit by making the keypad, the NFC tapping area that you put your phone or your watch to. And I think that's a great solution. I think I'm surprised we haven't seen it sooner. So, because August has a keypad, Level has a keypad, and both of those work with Apple Home. So, I think this is a great solution for retrofit because if you've not wanted to replace or couldn't replace your entire door lock, you've not been able to use Apple HomeKit because the NFC has always been in the lock itself, and that's not going to work through the actual door if you don't have a lock on the front. Okay, so yes, this is great news for European users because it works with the European Mortis locks and also works with some UK locks. That may need some adapters, but it's versatile and means that you can actually use HomeKit in Europe, which is, I don't know why it's taken so long. It is interesting that the smart lock space is quite complicated in Europe, though, especially if you've ever seen any of those old doors. And then they have some really high tech, high security doors too. So they got both ends of the spectrum, whereas we've just got these diddly deadbolts.
Right, that are questionable in their strength anyway. But yeah. But it's exciting. The one thing that's not exciting about this, sadly, and it's not really their fault, Aqara's fault, but no UWB, which doesn't exist in any smart locks yet. But I'm excited for when that does happen because the new hands-free unlocking feature that Apple announced should be coming to smart locks sometime soon-ish, the next few years. I know. It's so weird how Apple was like, they're ahead of the game with that. Like that, the support is there in iOS 18. And yet, like, we still don't even have most of Matter 1.2 in iOS 18. That's already in SmartThings. It's like they're going both ways. Like, we're going to adopt this before it even exists, basically, and we're going to adopt these maybe sometime.
Yeah, I think this was perhaps because Apple's involved with Alero. I think that this was perhaps a kind of way to help push Alero forward a little bit and get manufacturers on board. Alero is sort of like a Matter for access control. Mm-hmm. So I think, which has also been developed by the Connectivity Standards Alliance, the group behind Matter. So I think just smart locks in general are going through a transition. Big moment, right, as well. Right now, we just have smart locks everywhere. I would not wait for UWB. if you haven't got a smart lock and you're looking to buy a smart lock, don't wait, because, get what you need now today. And there's some great options out there and lots of new ones coming too. So, and this is a good one. This is a good one. It works with everything. So, that's always a great feature for a smart lock.
Yeah, it has so many features, and like you said, it's retrofit, which is nice. There's a lot of apartment people that are out there that want to be able to have a smart lock, and they can't, because they can't replace the entire thing. This allows them to keep with what they have now, keep that same exterior aesthetic, but just literally sticky tape on a keypad to give you fingerprints, NFC, home key, passcode, all of these options. So that's pretty great.
And I think you can also wire it.
Yeah.
So, which is great. You can wire the keypad to like doorbell wiring, which I think is a really useful feature, because I know people's biggest fears, and justifiable, is smart locks running out of battery and you not being able to get in your door. There are lots of other ways that smart locks work around this. And obviously with a retrofit, you're still going to have a key because the keyhole will still be there. But yeah, wired gives a lot more reliability, and probably is going to be more helpful with longevity, because one thing I hate about smart locks is switching out batteries, which I have to do on a regular basis, and it's very frustrating. So yeah, I think this is a nice looking lock. Like you say, a bit plasticky. Which we can go back to this now. And that's kind of Aqara's thing, but they are a more budget line. So if you want the sort of premium, you're going to go with like a Schlage or Kwikset. But for good value and nice products that work well with the smart home, Aqara is definitely one of the better options.
I agree. I like it. So I think price point, it's $279. Is that what the price point is?
I'm not, I think because it launched with a bit of a good discount, and Aqara is one of those companies where I would always wait for discounts. Don't pay full price. But yeah, I think, was it $269 is the price for launch for $269.99 for the U200, and there was a 20% I think discount when it launched, and Prime Day is coming up in a couple of weeks. Is it a couple of weeks? No, it's in a few days.
No, it's literally a couple of days. They told me that I could tell everyone this, but it's 20% off for Prime Day on the 16th and 17th. So if you're planning, if this is like, hey, that looks kind of interesting, hold off till the 16th or 17th. And I believe it should be as part of Aqara's Prime Day deals. So you should be good to go. Okay, we're going back to another Verge article. Chris wrote this one, which is that Sonos's new flagship soundbar has just leaked. Most of the details, again, you guys always leak the Sonos stuff. You take so much of the fun out of the launch days.
I swear, I don't know how he does it, but I know Chris must have, a tunnel into the Sonos offices or something, and he just sits there because he knows, he gets it all. He does. He's great with the Sonos scoops. So I don't know how he does it, but I'm not very excited about this because I have an Arc. I'm not upgrading because that thing was expensive. But I'm intrigued by the idea that you wouldn't need the accompanying subwoofer, which I do have. I think, and that thing is hard to kind of fit in your house. So I think it sounds really interesting. And also all this new tech. I am not an audiophile, but this new tech that Chris is reporting is going to be part of the speaker. It sort of sounds like this kind of might be the first of a sort of next generation of Sonos. I'm getting my S's mixed up here, of Sonos speakers. So do you know much about this side of what's happening here?
A little bit. I mean, I read Chris's stuff on the acquisition and the tech that they're building in. I don't know too much about getting very into the nitty gritty in terms of what they're building in. So it's I don't even know how you pronounce that. MAYHT.
Mate. Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure we're butchering it.
Yeah. Well, it's a Netherlands-based startup. They bought it for, it's a cool 100 million that they had lying around. And they invented a new revolutionary approach to audio transducers is the spiel that they're given. So couldn't tell you much about that, but it's taken Sonos a little while to integrate that tech into their speakers. We might see it here first with the new Arc, whatever they're going to call this thing. But
apparently,
according to Chris's article,
Lasso.
Good. Yes.
And they've even got like
Ted
Lasso. They've got Ted Lasso typeface on the beta units, which is quite amusing.
Yes. Well, those beta units do look very, very similar to the existing Arc. So apparently it's going to, use the same design, which makes me think that they're just going to keep it named Arc, like Arc Gen 2, whatever. Yeah. But what I thought was interesting, so they're improving with this new transducer tech. They're having much improved bass, apparently. Like Jennifer said, you can possibly ditch that external sub if you're okay with just the soundbar. There's going to be a dedicated Bluetooth button, so you can possibly cast Bluetooth audio to this. Yeah, but they're going to raise the price tag.
Of course.
He's thinking like $1,200, which is not cheap at all. Not at all.
No, but Sonos has never been cheap. So that's not surprising. And they've obviously been going through some turbulent times recently with the app update and a few other issues. But, if they're still very much the kind of gold standard in, this DIY home audio setup, although I think also used by professional integrators too. So it's good to see them innovating and coming, improving their audio tech, trying to keep themselves ahead of the competition here. Because right now I think it's interesting. Do you use a Sonos soundbar or do you use two HomePods? Because there's so much sort of competition now in the home speaker space. What's your setup like?
Well, I think a lot of the longtime listeners know that I am not a fan of using the sound or this pair of HomePods with my, Apple TV or my eARC setup, anything like that. I've always felt that the bass was a little loosey-goosey for movies and TV shows and made it hard to hear dialogue many times. Mm-hmm. So I do use a pair of HomePod minis in the bedroom because I can put them. Yeah,
it's great to have it right by your ears. Yes. Right.
Okay. I'm sorry that I'm sidetracking here, but I also I really need, and I know they exist, but I need to mount my HomePods on the wall because I have it on my nightstand and then I put my phone down every night.
Yes, and then it tries to do I know.
Yes.
It's so annoying.
It does the U1 handoff and then it pulls it up on the screen and it covers up my night standby mode. And I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
And I need to just get I need to get a little mount and put them on the wall so they're still in the same position. They're just not going to impact my phone.
Yes. No, I have that same setup. It works really well in the bedroom, but I agree it's not a good solution so much in the living room. But it will be interesting to see with the new tvOS, with this new enhanced dialogue improvements, whether that fixes some of those issues so that you do have better, clearer dialogue sound. And then
they had some of that already with HomePods, but now at least it's expanding to other speakers too, which is huge.
Yeah. But isn't it also supposed to be better? I thought that was what they hit, enhanced dialogue.
We've enhanced dialogue. I don't know. I just never, I kind of pulled away from it when I had that kind of subpar experience at the beginning.
Yeah.
And never bothered again, especially after at that point I did get a Sonos Arc to use. So I have an Arc in the living room. I've got a Beam in the studio that I use and I've been super happy with it. I did get the Sub Mini to go with it because it does miss out a little on the low. It wasn't bad. Yeah. I didn't hate the low end. It definitely sounds a lot better. with having a dedicated sub, and the sub mini is not terrible in terms of size. The regular sub is huge. It's massive and very hard to deal with.
Yes.
But I've been happy with it so far.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, speaking of Apple TV, we've seen some tweaks or some looks at what the new Insight feature is going to be like. Are you excited about Insight? Have you used X-Ray on Amazon Prime, which is basically what this is?
I do like the feature. It's just annoying that it's, of course, segmented to just Apple's app, right? You're like just Apple content in the Apple app.
TV Plus shows as well. Like not just anything on Apple TV Plus. It has to be an Apple show. So it's going to be very limited to start with, for sure.
Yes. And I mean, I do like it, and it works so well, like with your iPhone, because it shows up on your companion iPhone. They just added this in the third beta of tvOS 18. Have you been
playing with it?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit. There isn't a ton new in tvOS 18. I will say, okay, how has this not worked like this all the time? The fact that in tvOS 18, you hit the back button and it just turns on the subtitles. Or when you mute your TV, the subtitles turn on. Why has that not always been it's the simplest little thing.
It's a great quality of life upgrade, definitely. Yeah, you're right. It seems like a small thing, but yeah, like why has this not always existed?
100%. I have no idea, but it's so great. But yeah, that did just debut in the third beta there. We should be getting public betas. It has to be very soon. It's usually around after beta 3 of the developer betas for these milestone updates. So we could see that very soon. Jennifer sent this over just before. Well, actually, no, I want to hit this real quick. We'll come back to that. It is too much stuff to talk about real quick. But iOS 18, Jennifer sent over a link of somebody got their PG&E account already linked up with the Home app in iOS 18.
Quite exciting.
So that's cool. It's already that your energy monitoring is already working if you're one of the few, I guess not few, but one of the PG&E customers, which is not me for sure.
No, I'm not expecting it to come to Dominion Energy in South Carolina anytime soon, but who knows? But you're right, though. I'm sure there's a lot of Apple users out in California who are now going to be able to use this feature, I'm excited. Energy management is a space in the smart home that I think is really important, really useful, helps everyone, saves you money, hopefully saves your community energy and it's a great feature. And it's something that you haven't really been able to do a lot with in Apple Home or many smart home platforms. SmartThings has probably got the most robust energy management to date, but it's part of Matter now too. I think we're going to see a huge growth in this area, but this is just a small step. It's not actually part of Matter. It doesn't have any automation connections or abilities. It's literally just here you can see what energy you've used in your home app. But that's good. That's a step. It's a baby step. But it's a good baby step. And on the Reddit thread, this user posted that he was able to connect his account to his Apple Home to his PG&E account, and then further down the thread he actually posted a screenshot of what it looks like, and it shows his energy use. It shows how much he's used peak, how much he's used off peak, and then there's a little action tab that sort of says, this is what you could do to save energy. So it's essentially just pulling in the information you probably already get if you used your PG&E app, but having it all in one place. Useful. And then also because you can say you have connected devices, you could be like, oh, okay, maybe I should turn off my TV, or maybe I should turn off my lights, or turn up my AC, turn up the thermostat so that I'm not using as much AC. So it's a great first step. And then there's also, obviously, Apple has the clean energy monitoring app that you not app, but feature where you can see whether you're currently getting clean energy or if your energy isn't very clean now or when it is going to be clean. So you could also, start to make some adjustments. What I want to see Apple do is and this makes sense that we're getting the pieces in place here, is start to be able to do all of that for you. So it can see what energy you're using, see where, what your trends are, when you like to use energy, what you're most likely to be doing, and help you manage when you're going to actually, say, run your tumble dryer, or, when there's cleaner energy and it's going to be less expensive, and pop up and say you should do it now, or even do it for you. So I think we'll start to see those kind of features, energy management features, coming to Apple Home slowly, because things don't happen quickly. But what do you think? Are you excited about energy management?
I am. And I think because everything is tied together, and energy management is going to be so hard to deal with because you need parts at all these different points. For me, I'm looking at, what solar options are, battery backup options are. You've got the grid components, and then you have all your individual electronics in the house. And Apple has had like individual energy monitoring for a while now. Like the Eve products have historically had them, but few others did, because what could you really do with it other than, like, you couldn't even view it in the Home app. You had to go into a third-party app to view that energy consumption and figure out how much things are like costing you. I think that should be built into basically all of your smart home products, that it can be built into any of them. Like literally it could be built into your stove, whatever, and monitor this stuff for you. And then to be able to compile that combined with where you get your power. Is it clean power? Is it expensive power at this point in the day? All those things. And like you said, start to automate some of that stuff and just give you all that data. I feel like it goes into the Apple Intelligence play just, probably a few years down the line.
Yeah, we're not even getting Apple Home. Apple Home's not getting any Apple Intelligence, at least as far as we know. So it's going to be a while, but you can see the path, and that's exciting for sure. And if they could start tying in solar, also EV chargers, there's a lot of potential here. And I feel like this is kind of a real boon for Matter. And like a lot of people, I hear, well, why do I need Matter? This all works the way I want it. And a lot of Apple Home users, I think, I feel that way, because we still haven't seen a lot of new categories come from Matter. But this is an area I think Matter is going to really help, because it's like you say, everything. It will be so much easier for everything to contribute to your energy management platform if it's all talking the same language of Matter, whether or not it's reporting its energy use. Just being able to control things the same way, like on and off, even if it's not an energy monitoring smart plug, being able to turn it on and off with the same, the same language, the same smart home language, is going to make this so much more seamless and less complicated. I know people that try and do all of this themselves today, and it is not easy. You can save a lot of money, and I think that's a real benefit. That was kind of what kickstarted the original DIY smart home, the Nest thermostat, because you could save money. So I really feel like this is going to be a huge sort of push for the smart home once companies can figure this out. And it'll be interesting to see who kind of gets there first.
Yeah, we know we have at least a lot of improvements coming in Matter. They did add EV chargers and everything. And I can see, because one of the things that's, especially when you're looking at whole home management, one of the things that you deal with is like, you're going to have a battery backup on your house. Which of the breakers do you want to continue working and the rest will stay off? Like when your home has to kick over to like this emergency power. I would love if the whole home switched to the emergency power, and then it was able to turn off, like you could have it turn off individual devices or outlets instead of having to kill like entire breakers and sections of your house. Right. It would know how much you use, and you could literally forecast this stuff out. There's so much you could do. You just need a lot more data points to do it.
Yeah. I actually got the new EcoFlow portable battery in my garage right now that I'm starting to test, and it will pair with a smart home panel and can start to do things like that. So those are, there's a lot here that I'm actually starting to test some smart breakers and sort of look into this space, because I live in South Carolina. My poor editor lives in Houston, and he's been without power for 3 days. And the first Slack message he sent me when he got back online was, "We need to talk about generators." I'm like, yeah, there are some good options out there now. None that I don't think that work with Apple Home yet, but I don't think it'll be long.
I agree. Well, we have more to talk about, but we should take a quick break to thank our sponsor for this episode of HomeKit Insider. We're talking about Zocdoc. It is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. I've used Zocdoc. My wife has used Zocdoc. That child that we have, it'll probably use Zocdoc because it is so easy. Especially in like those random situations where you need to find like a doctor like right away, like you're not feeling great, you can just book with Zocdoc, and half the time you can get directly into a doctor that day, or there's telehealth appointments, so you can just do it remotely without even having to get off your couch. I also love that you can find out if they take your insurance before you go. Before you book an appointment, wait like weeks or months or something to get into somewhere, then you go in and they don't take your insurance. And then what are you going to do? Are you going to start all over again? No, it's a pain in the butt. But I've literally been there trying to find like a doctor that's going to help me with like my type 1 diabetes. If you have any other specialists, it can be a pain to find. So I love that about Zocdoc. Plus, they have reviews by actual people who have gone to those doctors that can help you find one that's going to really mesh with you. I've also seen all the other Zocdoc commercials on TV, and they have some really funny ones. Like, just a prop to Zocdoc for some really good TV commercials. My wife has also used them to bypass lines. Like, she goes into like basically like the quick clinic around here, and she was able to book her appointment past everything. She just shows up at the doctor's office. Everyone is just staring at her while they literally just call her name as she walked in, and they're all sitting there in the waiting room, probably sharing germs with everyone. And she just bypassed the whole line because she booked with Zocdoc. I love it. It's great. It's so handy. So we're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and much more. Plus, Zocdoc appointments happen fast, typically within 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to Zocdoc.com/HKI to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That is ZocDoc.com/HKI. Zocdoc.com/HKI. Thank you, as always, to Zocdoc for sponsoring this. So let's hit a couple of these quick little ones, Jennifer. And then I want to talk about Apple's new, maybe, smart home device. So knocking a couple of these out. The Insta360 Flow Pro, that launched this past week. I have a hands-on that I've linked in the show notes. But basically, this is a handheld gimbal stabilizer for your iPhone. Your iPhone can connect via MagSafe, which is awesome. It has a built-in tripod and extends out to be like a selfie stick situation. But it works with Apple Dock Kit. So you just tap your phone right on the center. It pairs everything just like over NFC and Bluetooth, like so fast. And then you just snap your phone on there and you can set it down on your desk and it'll follow you around. Like, there's so many use cases for this. It is similar to the Belkin one that had already launched. That was like a standalone unit. I think this is a fantastic because you're not only getting like the Dock Kit thing, but you're getting the stabilizer too. I think this is very useful for people versus the Belkin one. Like, the Belkin one was just that stand that followed you around. This has all the stabilizer features to go with it. So if anyone's interested in learning more about it, there's a hands-on in the show notes. Jennifer, why don't you walk us through this one? Homey, we have talked about them before. They just got snatched up. LG has purchased Homey. Tell us more.
Yeah, so Homey is a really interesting company. I've been keeping an eye on for many years. They've been around for almost a decade, and they're based actually in Holland, a Dutch company. And it's a smart home hub that does have Apple Home compatibility. And actually, I think it was CES 2019, 2020. I think they came out and they were like, we're going to launch this hub in the US market, and it's going to be connect all the things. It has all the radios. And then they finally launched it last year. So it took a while. But they've been in Europe for a long time. And it's very much like the original sort of SmartThings hub, or like a Hubitat, but it's a lot more user-friendly, I would say, than the early days of SmartThings or Habitat today, if you're familiar with. It has a much sort of easier interface and works with a lot of your the ones you would expect. So Sonos, IKEA, Aqara, Hue, all sorts. But what's happened is that LG, the big appliance company, has decided to buy them. They've acquired an 80% stake. And will eventually get the remaining 20% in the next sort of 3 years. And LG is saying that this is kind of they're really pushing it as its AI move, a big AI move, because of the way if you were at CES this year, LG talked all about its push into the smart home using what it called affectionate intelligence. I wonder how many more A's we're going to come out with. We've got Apple intelligence, affectionate intelligence, artificial intelligence. And so they're really sort of pushing this idea of being able to understand what is going on in your home and serve up interesting, useful automations for you. And this is something that everyone's trying to do in the smart home now. Use the data that you get from appliances, from sensors, from all the connected devices, and create a much more ambient smart home, one that you don't have to kind of program yourself. And adding Homey to the LG's portfolio will very much kind of provide a missing piece, because to date, LG's smart home efforts have been very poor. There's really nothing there. The ThinQ platform is their smart home platform, and it's very much just for their own devices. And now this will, they're saying, be able to bring anything that can connect to Homey into their ThinQ platform, making ThinQ a lot more like SmartThings is for Samsung. So ThinQ for LG could become very much like a SmartThings for Samsung platform, which I think it can be interesting to see how this happens. Apparently, to begin with, Homey will continue as a standalone company. So if you use a Homey hub, no problems. It'll, don't worry, it's still going to work, but you'll also have the benefit of being able to use LG appliances in your smart home setup, which will be a first, and that will be interesting to see how that works. It's not live yet, but they're saying that's going to be one of the first moves, the first changes that we'll see. So this is very much like when Samsung acquired SmartThings for, I think it was like 200 million in 2014, so 10 years ago. No pricing around this one. We don't know how much it cost, although there have been rumors that it was about 61 million, which is quite a lot less. But Homey is a smaller company than SmartThings was back then, and also it's not quite the same smart home excitement climate as it was 10 years ago. So I don't know, I think this is really interesting to sort of see LG move a little, make a stronger move into home automation. They've talked a big talk for years, but they've never really done much. At CES this year, they did also announce that all of their smart TVs would be Google Home hubs. So I'm really interested to see how this fits in. But my guess is eventually they'll just take Atham, which is the company that owns Homey's sort of intelligence, the way their platform works, and bring that to LG ThinQ, and eventually Homey itself will go away. But we'll get you'll have that intelligence layer, the automations. It's an interesting platform. They do some really robust automations like SmartThings does. So what do you think about it, Andrew? You think this is an interesting move?
I think so. I mean, when have we talked about LG on this podcast before? I mean, they've done nothing really that has been impactful, at least on the Apple home side. I mean, you've got appliances, and also I did not know, I always pronounce it think. Like it was like a Q was pronounced as like a C or a K. Maybe, yeah. I've never heard anyone pronounce it before, so I didn't actually know how it was pronounced.
I've always said ThinQ, but I could be wrong. Think makes sense too. Is this This is when
Nobody
I work
knows.
with words more than I work with text more than speaking words. So you're the podcaster. You should know this thing.
Maybe we'll get lucky and LG will just rename Think or Think You just to Homey, and then we'll know how to pronounce it. We'll be fine. So if we can put our 2 cents in there.
I think
but no,
I
think this is a good thing. I liked Homey.
I'm pretty sure it's Think You. I've listened to LG presentations at CES, and it's Think You. It's like Think IQ.
Well, I think it's a good thing.
Too many thinks. I'm thinking Think You. It's the IQ behind your thinking.
I know. Well, either way, I'm excited for more appliances to actually get into these smart home ecosystems. Like, that's been the biggest thing. I'm wondering if my washer and dryer are going to end up in Matter, because they are Samsung ones. Like, are they going to be, because they already support smart things and everything, are those going to get, moved over? Who knows? No one's really saying anything.
Well, and both,
especially with appliances, you're not buying new ones quickly.
In theory, because of the Home Connectivity Alliance, Samsung and LG appliances should work in each other's apps soon. They announced that a while ago. It hasn't.
Couldn't do that.
That was the Apple person. I didn't. Sorry. This will get us on to our next subject. But yes, the LG and Samsung appliances should work in each other's apps even without Matter at this point, because we have. I don't know if you've reported on this, but Samsung SmartThings appliances are not currently, and do not, as far as we're aware, have plans to work as Matter devices. So even if Apple Home supports appliances at some point from Matter, you won't be able to put your Samsung washer or Samsung fridge into your Apple Home app through Matter. And we don't know about LG. LG supports Matter in its TVs, but it hasn't said about its appliances yet. So all of that is still very kind of nebulous. But I agree, getting appliances into the smart home is into a platform, into all the platforms, and being able to use them mainly, I think, for the energy management portion, but also for other features that will be useful, is really key. So, and at this point, it's still feeling very nebulous, and it's partnerships rather than a sort of straightforward everyone works with each other, which is frustrating, but I'm hoping we'll see a shift. It's about consumer pressure as well. I think we need to yell at these companies and say, we need this. We need to be able to, I don't want to have to go buy new appliances. I'm not going to go buy new appliances so that I can monitor the energy or use them in the app that I want to. So it'll be interesting to see what LG does. It does seem like they're kind of hedging their bets a little. They've got their fingers in a few different pies right now. So to see where it ends up, I'm looking forward to finding out.
Oh, for sure. Okay.
Sorry.
We have talked so much already. I want to get to our fun part of the episode. I do want to mention this really quick. I'm not going to hit it too hard. This is a new charger from Peak Design. Not Peak Design. Peak Design does have their new Qi 2 line for motorcycles, which is also in the show notes. But this is from Nomad, and I thought this was really cool because the first charger of its kind. This right here is their new 65-watt 3-in-1 charger. It is pretty darn small. It's nice and compact, 65 watts. It has foldable prongs on the end, which makes it great for travel because you can slip it into your bag without the prongs sticking out. You have 2 USB-C ports on the front. They will both do 65 watts independently. When you're using them at the same time, the top one will output higher power, like 45 watts, versus like 20 on the lower one, but it also has a fast charging Apple Watch puck on the top. So you just put this into the wall, set your watch on top, plug 2 devices in the front, charge 3 devices at the same time. I love this for like hotel rooms when you have those little ones on like your nightstand that they've been putting there so frequently. Like I was just in a hotel room and now this could go right there. You don't have to bring a cable, one less thing to worry about. I think this is really cool.
I think that's great. I've been looking for a good portable travel charger for a while, and yeah, that's That's a neat little gadget. It's very hard to find. The problem I have, like those won't fit in a lot of the hotel room plugs, like, especially those ones they put on your bedside table and nothing will go in or it falls out. It's yes.
They always fall out. They always fall out. Okay, let's get to the big thing, because this has been a topic for like 2 weeks already on the show. We might as well make it week 3, because we had one little piece of news, which is that tvOS 18 is hiding a touchscreen keypad. That's right. There's literally an interface in tvOS 18 that would allow you to put in a passcode, which, especially the way the interface is designed, it's not for a TV. So this is clearly for some other touch screen type device. And, it could possibly be this somehow rumored smart home display hub thing that Apple has been working on that's also running a forked version of tvOS. So, as that was happening, and we've been talking about it for like 3 weeks now, I know you also just had an article go up where you go into a bunch more details or speculation on Apple's new smart display. So I've talked about this a lot recently. Let's hear from you. What do you think? We're going to see all that.
Apple's home screen pod pad thing. Who knows what we're going to get. But yes, I decided it was time to just. There's been rumors are definitely heating up with what 9 to 5 Mac and Mac rumors have found in the tvOS 18 code. I have no idea how they do all of that, but I'm very impressed. And it is really interesting. We've had rumors about an Apple Home smart display of some kind for 3 or 4 years now. It's been a long time. And, I've obviously been keeping tabs on it. And I finally decided, we're getting to the point where I think it's going to happen. I think we're going to get it either maybe this fall, but most likely next spring. And so I just did a big roundup of all the rumors. And I think, the touchscreen keypad, this new plasterboard is what they found is the sort of like a springboard for the iPhone is what they discovered in the code that indicates that there's like a sort of back end for a new interface. And that's really exciting. I think that, was a real kind of, okay, this is almost here sign. So I went through and rounded up all the rumors from over the years. And I think personally, I'm most excited about the idea of a actual HomePad, I'm going to call it, an iPad for the home, because the smart display form factor and concept to date, I have not found that compelling for a smart home user. I know people love smart speakers, people like smart displays, but they're not, they just have been so underpowered and so frustrating to use. I use the Echoes, I use the Echo Shows, the Google Nest Hubs, and for smart home control, they are not good. And then when Amazon came out with its Echo Hub, which is a flat screen panel designed to control your smart home, that form factor I find really works quite well. So, and I know a lot of people, probably yourself included, use iPads already to control their homes. But you kind of have to know what you're doing to make it work, and you kind of shoehorn it into a smart home controller. An obvious move for me is for Apple to come out with a lower priced single kind of use focus for the smart home with a HomePad that, mount on the wall or prop on your table. It could have bigger speakers. That's going to be more expensive though. So my guess is we're going to see a low end iPad that works for the home, and then something whiz bang fancy like Gurman has been reporting at Bloomberg for the last few years, that's some kind of like Apple TV / HomePod / smart display / FaceTime camera with maybe a robotic arm, which I also don't think is a great idea. But DocKit could use DocKit so that it moves around when you're cooking in the kitchen or talking to someone on FaceTime. There's that. So I think there's 2 or 3 interesting options here. I would like to see a dedicated HomePad for for the home, for the smart home that could have speakers. But, you know, if it's going to have speakers and a 7-inch display, if it's a HomePod with a 7-inch display, we're talking like $600, aren't we? I mean, and that's not going to work. You can't have that in every room. So something like the Echo Hub, like just an iPad that's sort of less, you know, what the cheapest iPad is $330 right now. So if they could get one that, you know, down to $200, you know, you could put 2 or 3 of those around your house to control your home. So, yeah, those. And then there's also the other rumor, which I think I haven't heard a lot about this recently, but I think also makes sense, is to make the existing HomePod more useful, like make the display on the top of the HomePod have more function. You know, almost like we already have it with the Apple Watch. There's a lot you can do with an Apple Watch interface. If the top of the HomePod had, you know, brightness control when you asked it to turn on a light, or gave you more options for changing tracks when you're listening to music, or choosing a podcast, or locking or unlocking your door at night. So those are sort of 3 form factors I think we may see. Update to the HomePod as is, a smart display with speakers, and then perhaps just an iPad for the home, and then whatever this whiz-bang tabletop robot thing is. So what do you think's going to come down the line? What do you want? What do you think is going to be the most useful?
I mainly want a smart display. I want one that's going to replace my HomePod, that has an integrated display, that I can use Apple Intelligence. I can display photos and everything. I can use Apple's Assistant, like control my home, all of that stuff. Because I'm not going to use the iPad, because like, what are you going to keep it on all the time? Are you like going to keep it plugged in somewhere? You're going to end up killing the battery if you just perpetually have it powered and everything. I'm not going to tap into my wall, so like I need like a stand, and it just isn't designed to do that, and it's always going to be not quite right. Well. No, and I am jealous of like the Google Nest Hub Max, whatever.
Google Nest
I
Hub
think
and the Google Nest Hub Max.
But,
there's 2 of them.
Okay, well, apparently there's 2. I'm pretty sure I have the smaller one,
yeah.
but I really.
But it's terrible for controlling your smart home. It seems like a good idea, but this is why I think we need like a lower end iPad, but that's better than a Nest Hub, because the Nest Hub is very underpowered. And, you know, like the Pixel tablet is the other idea that we've seen, where it's attached to the speaker dock. You could maybe see Apple doing something like that, where an iPad attaches to like a MagSafe dock kit enabled dock. But that is not good for home control. I've used the Pixel tablet in my home, and when I go to try and use it to, you know, do some home thing, and then my daughter's taken it off to her bedroom. And that's why we need something that's a dedicated device, I think, that isn't going to also stream YouTube. But, you know, that's for my use case and from the smart home. And I know that what I'm interested to see here is whatever Apple is going to come up with in the smart display space, is it going to be for the home? Or are they going to try and make it more of a universal device, like streaming video, playing music, or, you know, that's, and this is the problem that smart displays have had up to this point, and I've written extensively about this, is that they are devices designed to do like 5 or 6 different things, be a photo frame, be a music player, maybe be a video streamer, control home devices, show video from like cameras, video doorbells, be an intercom. And they don't do any of those things well. None of the individual things they're designed to do they do very well. You don't want to watch a movie on a 7-inch screen if you're in your home. I mean, why would you do that? You have your TV. They're not great for control of devices because they're not fast enough. Your phone's going to respond much more quickly if you need a touchscreen interface. So they just don't do great. And sound isn't great from one. And Apple, you know, if I don't see Apple giving us a small little smart display with a speaker behind it, because the sound's not going to be good. Google Nest Hubs, Echo Shows do not sound as good as a Nest audio or an Echo fourth gen, which is just the speaker. So smart speakers sound better than smart displays because you've stuck a display in front of the speaker. So, it's a conundrum for them. I would love Apple to come up with something completely new that is not an iteration on what's already out there. So that would be that's my wish, that we're going to have, they're going to do their thing of, better late and better than first and not very good.
Well, my biggest thing is I think what is absolutely key to this is Apple Intelligence. I thought that before Apple Intelligence was a thing, because for me, I want to be able to ask Apple's Assistant questions. I want to see these things visually, conversions for, teaspoons to tablespoons or something while I'm trying to cook. I want to see maybe the weather forecast for the week. All these things make sense, and they're always in that central point of the house. I want it in the kitchen. But like you said, I don't want to watch a movie or a TV show, but I maybe want to watch a cooking video from Epicurious or something. How great would it be to have an Epicurious video going on with the recipe on the left-hand side of the display, and it's walking through the steps, and I can use Apple Intelligence to, move forward through the steps as I go with those, deeper in-app tie-ons and stuff. I think there's a lot more it can do. And since it can be contextually aware, you can continue these conversations as you're doing stuff. As that central point in your home, it can also be great for those family functions. Apple already has the multi-user support with HomePod, so you'll be able to get customized answers for your stuff. So I think there's a lot that Apple can do here. I think Apple Intelligence is key. I'm hoping that we're going to see some Apple Intelligence announcements related to home surrounding this device, whenever it may come. But what I was nervous about, you just went through all these rumors, so you'll probably know, you're fresher with them than I am. What was going on? I thought Gurman said that the first home product with Apple Intelligence will be the robotic device. The one that moves around, and the example that he gave, which seems so extra, is that it will mimic your reactions to people. If they nod, the display would nod back at you, to follow you around and mimic it, make it feel a little bit more personal. But if that's the case, I don't see that being super imminent. Are we going to get a home hub, a HomePad device without Apple Intelligence in it, which seems insane to me?
It's hard to. They're so late to this space already that I suppose waiting until they can bring this throughout the home is probably the move now. Because if they bring out something without Apple Intelligence, because right now, just to clarify, right, Apple Home does not have any part in Apple Intelligence. None of the current HomePods appear to have the processor power to be able to support any of this. So the current Apple Home will have to be completely kind of revamped if it's going to work with this Apple Intelligence. So is that all going to come? And Gurman has said that the new, what he calls tabletop robot, will be the first Apple Home device from Apple to use Apple Intelligence. But Apple Intelligence isn't even arriving until next spring, which I don't, so are they going to bring us a whole new Apple Home next spring with a new device? I mean, I could see that being a big enough event. They do a spring event normally, right? The HomePods normally come out in the first half of the year. So I could see that, but an Apple tabletop robot, which for a visual, I think, the Echo Show 10 is kind of the closest idea, or I think we've seen some people that have done renderings with the the Mac that had the robotic adjustable head, and this would be more robotic. But those types of devices take up so much room. You are not going to want that on your kitchen counter. I'm sorry. No, it is not. It's not
a mass market device. It's not something that everyone's going to pick up.
No.
Or that you're going to buy 3 of. Because if it was the smart home display hub thing that I'm envisioning, I would easily pick up 2 or 3. One for the studio, one for my living room, dining room, kitchen, combined space, and possibly even one for the bedroom, depending on, its functionality. But
I think
I feel like it needs Apple Intelligence.
So I think that it may be, you know, we like with the Vision Pro, we come out with the big fancy one first. So it might be this tabletop robot. And then eventually we'll get cheaper versions of it, like going down the line, like to perhaps just to the HomePad I was talking about. So it doesn't have the speaker, but you can still have the tablet interface somewhere in your house, which I think is very much needed. That you need that touch interface. I know some people disagree. But if you've got your home perfectly set up with routines and motion sensors and voice control, yay for you. But that's not great for everyone that comes into your home. You still sometimes need those physical controls. And I think, so I think if we may not get anything this year. That's the rumors. The German a lot of the rumors were 2024. I think that's not going to happen. I think German's now saying 2025 at the earliest, spring. And so we may get this tabletop robot, which I think seems a little not that excited about. But then if that's a $600 gadget, hopefully then they'll, like they did with the HomePods and the Minis, launch with this big fancy device and then bring out less discontinue it and then bring out less expensive versions that people can use and afford and put more than one around their home. And then the other idea, of course, is this integrated Apple TV with a HomePod, with a FaceTime camera. And I'm like, just do it, Apple. Come on, just give us an actual TV. I want a TV. Give me an Apple TV, not a box, like the whole shebang. You know, this is already something a lot of companies do. Samsung has, a whole, and LG, speaking of them, you can already do a lot of these things with existing smart TVs. And it just would make sense to have an all-in-one device that is an Apple TV, not the little box, the actual TV. So, and all of these things obviously need to be smart home hubs. They need to be home hubs. They need to have Matter and Thread. And so there's a lot of options, but I really hope they come out with something kind of different and new and that just really excites and ignites the smart home space again. Because they haven't done that for a while in Apple Home. Would you?
Yeah, they keep doing all these different parts, and I feel like a lot of this has been building to it. I mean, they've been putting Thread radios in half your things, not even turning half of them on. They've been putting more sensors in all of the HomePods. They have DocKit to do these FaceTime and moving calls and everything. They have intercom that I feel like doesn't get used that much. They have Apple Intelligence now. Like, so many of these different pieces are starting to fall into place to make something that's like this really useful. Just being able to see like who's at my door without having to pull out my phone or something will be very helpful. There's a lot of things this could do, and I'm just tired of waiting. And I'm so jealous of the other smart home platforms that even if they're subpar devices, at least it's something. I know Apple is always late, but they just seem extra.
And if they just come out with an iteration of what already exists, I'm not sure that's really going to be enough. So I think you're right. Apple Intelligence will, could make or break something here, but Apple Intelligence still feels very much like an interesting concept, but no one's really got a chance to play with any of it. And I think it's likely to be a while until we get to see any of its benefits in the home, unfortunately.
I mean, just the improvements to Apple's voice assistant, are exciting for me at this point. Like, just being able to correct yourself, because I do that a lot because I stumble trying to think of the name of what I named something. My wife does that all the time, and then she has to wait and then start over and just be able to correct herself mid-command. That she flubbed. Like, those little things are going to go a long way. And it's just annoying that we're not going to get this in existing HomePods. And who knows before we have new HomePods. Again, just for the Siri aspect alone. Like, that is such a big part of this, and that will continue to get better.
I think, like we said with the energy management, the piece is there. And hopefully, one of the things I've been most excited about with following what German's been reporting in Bloomberg is that since the Vision Pro was a bit of a damp squib and they got rid of the car, that home is really the new focus. And it makes sense for Apple to focus on the home because it is arguably the biggest growth potential right now for any tech company, especially for Apple, because they've already got a foot in the door and they could expand significantly. They're working hard with Matter. They've got Thread. All the pieces and parts are there. So it makes sense now that finally, a decade after they introduced Apple Home, more than a decade, that they can really maybe put many of the resources of this company behind making it a really impressive ecosystem and some interesting products. So I feel like we're in the beginning of the golden age.
I hope so. I feel like they spent all this time laying the groundwork of security and privacy just to get into the kind of the real meat of things as we get into the predictive and at home learning of your schedules and having to upload stuff. Hopefully it's good.
I think we'll see something. Ooh, you went away. Ooh. Did your automations decide it's been too long? I'm turning the lights off.
My key light just flickered on while we were watching the video. It's like you're on stage and there's the guy in the back there, you just finished your comedy set. It's
they're playing the music.
You've got 2 minutes left. No, my lights just randomly my power in the room just goes on and off sometimes. And it happens to be where my key light is.
It was very dramatic. It was a very dramatic moment.
Well, we might as well wrap it up because this has been an episode. It's been a long episode, so I hope we've had so much fun stuff to talk about. It's been great. Jennifer, thank you for stopping by. Is there anywhere you'd like to point everyone?
You can find all of my work on theverge.com. And then I've also actually recently started something called a story stream on The Verge, which is basically where I collect all the news and reviews and guides from the smart home, not just my reporting, others too. So that's at theverge.com. If you click on my byline, you can get to that. You follow me on the X and on the Threads where I'm Smart Home Mama. Hope to come back and chat with you again soon, Andrew.
Absolutely, anytime. Thank you, everybody, for listening or watching. You can watch the episode at youtube.com/HomeKit Insider. Give us a review on any of your podcast platforms of choice. Otherwise, we'll be back next week.
Bye.
See you guys.